Thank you guys for joining. Again, my name is Jamie. I'm one of the sleep coaches with I Help Moms. And I'm obsessed with this webinar because I love being able to just give the moms information to really help their infants as their sleep is changing. Newborn sleep is very different from infant sleep, and that's different from toddler sleep. And so today we're going to be focused on what goes into sleep for 4 to 12-month olds. The first thing I want to cover is safe sleep. Of course, everybody makes their own decisions, whether you choose to co-sleep or have your baby sleep in their own separate space from you. And if you want to talk about co-sleeping, please, there's going to be information for us to connect, and I can definitely give you some tips and advice on how to make that safe. But this is for children who are going to be in their independent sleep space. And the first thing is, you want to leave the crib free of any objects, right? We want to get rid of the mobiles, the blankets, anything like that, because as moms, we want to do our best to protect them. And so by removing them, what we're doing is just really diminishing the risk of SIDS. Even though there's not a clear definition as to what causes it, we can always do our part. And so rockers and swings for night sleeping have been recalled, so definitely keep an eye on that. However, for naps, we know that they enjoy being rocked. What you want to do is just keep an eye on them during the day, but at night we want to place them on their back on a firm mattress, no blankets. If you're swaddling, you want to really remove that and transition them into a sleep sack once they start to show signs of rolling over. So sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 4, and sometimes it's 2.5. Pacifiers, they've really been shown to reduce the risk of SIDS because newborns and infants really have a need for suction, and so that kind of keeps their heart rhythms going. And then at 12 months, you can introduce a blanket. You just want to make sure it is breathable. So it's important to understand your baby's sleep cycle because that way you kind of know what's really going on in their sleep, right? And so at 4 months, they go into more adult-like patterns, and this is kind of what that looks like. So the first 10 minutes is where your baby is drowsy, and if you want to start implementing independent sleep skills, you want to start laying them down at this point. They're a little bit drowsy. Between the 10 to 20-minute mark, they're going into deeper sleep, and at the 20 and 30-minute mark, they're in heavy sleep, and that's the really good part, where if you are holding your child, you really want to lay them down at this moment. The deeper sleep is harder for them to get out of, and so they really won't wake up right when you lay them down or 2-3 minutes after you lay them down. And then at the 30-40-minute mark, they are coming out of their heavy sleep, going into light sleep where they are easy to wake. And something important about this is when you hear your baby cry, oftentimes they're going from one sleep cycle to the other. So I always tell parents, pause for a few moments, maybe 2 minutes, see if they put themselves back to sleep. And if they don't, then you can, of course, intervene. So like I said before, once your baby turns 4 months old, they go from newborn patterns to more adult patterns. And so eventually they get to those longer stretches of sleep. And at 4 months, you can really start implementing a schedule where you really look at baby's wake windows and you kind of see what works for them, and you build a schedule from there, not putting a lot of pressure on them, just seeing what baby can do and kind of stepping alongside them and aiding them in their napping and sleeping journey. Sleep EQ signs, this is really important because a lot of the times, we're so busy as moms and we have our hands in other things, or we have other children, that we sometimes catch it when they are already in the overtired state. And the important thing to know is that when babies are overtired, their adrenaline shoots up and their cortisol levels shoot up because their body's trying to keep them awake. So for them to get those hormone levels back down to a level where they're calm takes a long time, which is why calming an overtired baby is a little bit frustrating. The baby's frustrated and it can take a while. So you really want to start to lay them down before they start. So as soon as they start to show you signs that they're tired, try and lay them down at that moment if you can. If not, no big deal. There's always remedies. So if your baby is kind of staring off, if they have red eyebrows or bags under their eyes, and if they start to look away, that is their sign of, hey, I'm tired. You want to lay them down. You can, of course, try drowsy. If they're, even about 4 months of age, you can try drowsy. But once they are 5 months or older, you want to lay them down fully awake. When it's time to really lay them down, it's fussy. You were seeing them take those big yawns and rub their eyes. They are not yet cranky. That's the middle ground. Try your best to lay baby down at that point. And then overtired, we definitely know when our kids are overtired. They're pushing you, their body gets rigid, they're cranky and they're crying and you can't really console them. And if you're at that stage, I always tell parents, take some time and go to a relaxed space, usually their sleep space. So, dark room, some white noise, and just kind of, shush them or pat them, rock them, whatever works for them, just to kind of get them calm and then lay them down. All right, so wake windows. Every baby is different. Some babies are higher sleep needs and some are lower. So this is just what's average. So please don't look at this and say, my baby has to fall in this line. They are different, and that's why it's such a benefit to speak with a sleep consultant, because they're going to work around what works for your child. And so we at iHelpMoms love doing that. We love being little investigators. So at 0 to 3 months, a wake window can be about 40 to 90 minutes, and then baby usually has to be put down for a nap or bedtime after that. And wake windows are simply the time in between when baby wakes up and the time they need to be put back down to sleep. And at 4 to 6 months, we have 1.5 to 2.5 hours where baby has to go to sleep. At 6 months, everything increases by about a half an hour and extends by a half an hour, if you're kind of seeing what I'm seeing right here. And then at 8 to 12 months, we have 2.5 to 3.5 hours of awake time. And I wrote that they have a possible 4-hour stretch before bed. And that's if that last nap of the day is really good and really solid. Many babies can give you that 4-hour stretch. Regressions. You guys, I always see so many moms posting about regressions, and baby used to sleep good, but now their sleep is kind of all over the place. It happened to me. It's not fun, and you kind of go into survival mode. My number one tip though is try not to create a new habit that you can't sustain later, because it might be working for you now, but once the regression passes, baby has now gotten used to that habit and they're going to be expecting that at every week. So regressions are really good. They're sometimes called leaps because your baby is physically growing. Their brain is going through so much that it's trying to keep up, and sleep is one of the things that are affected by it. Not every child goes through it, and not every child shows the signs of it, but there is brain development. Separation anxiety, being aware of the outside world, learning how to walk, crawl, sit up, all of these things can kind of intervene in their sleep, and it makes them want to wake up and practice it in their sleep. So if you're going through that, please reach out and we can talk about how to get them to practice those skills, not in their crib, so that they can sleep and so can you. And they usually last between 2 to 6 weeks, and if it's been longer than 6 weeks, it is either a sign of they're needing a new habit was established that they can't get out of, or it might be time for a schedule change. All right, so what does a regression look like? At 4 months and 8 months and 12 months, you can see sometimes that there's a regression. Some babies will hit every regression, some would only hit a few. Some, the regression only hits for a few nights. It really just depends on your child. And so the signs are night wakings, fighting their naps, whether it's having a shorter nap or refusing it altogether, and then fighting bedtime. Those are all signs that we are dealing with a sleep regression. If you guys are needing help, I just want to put this here. You guys, it's very inexpensive to really just get a good grasp on what's going on in your home, your family environment, and with your child. Sleep is not linear. It looks different on every child. And I really am a big advocate of doing what works for you guys and finding the support that's really going to be beneficial for your family. weaning your night feeds. Do you have to wean? And the answer is absolutely not. Moms sometimes hold on to weaning longer than they should, like I did with my daughter, and some want to wean right away. And every child is different. Some children will wean automatically if there is sleep training happening. Some parents will say, I'm okay with sticking to one feed. And then we decide, okay, what's the feed you want to keep, and work on that. Some don't want any feedings once, the baby's of a certain age. So those are all things that you would work with a sleep consultant, and really finding what's going to work for you and what you want, and also what baby needs. So it naturally occurs around 6 to 8 months. Most of the time I see this now at 8 months, and you always want to speak with your pediatrician first. So if your baby is if your baby is healthy, growing at an appropriate amount, they weren't premature, and so their adjusted age is good. All those things, your pediatrician says, yeah, you know what, you're good to go, then definitely consider weaning. And if you want to lead it, again, do it at 8 months. If baby weans themselves, then of course that's not a big deal. You just want to make sure that your baby's getting their caloric intake during the day versus at night. And if you're nursing, you want to cut back on the feed that you want to wean by nursing 2 minutes less each night. And sometimes that is a little bit tricky when it's obviously the middle of the night and you're probably not using a timer or anything like that. So just kind of gauge, sometimes baby will still want to continue to feed, because at that point, if they're older than 8 months, it is now a habit. And so it's, the mom's kind of responsibility to say, you know what, you're okay, you're healthy, you're strong, you're an appropriate age, we're gonna handle this at night, and then make sure you're getting really good feeds during the day. And if they're bottle fed, you want to drop the intake by 1/2 ounce each night, maybe every 2 nights, until the bottle is finished. And then with both of them, you might have to pair it with a sleep training method. So if you have already sleep trained, you would go back to the original sleep training that you use, because it's familiar to them. If it's been an extremely long time, like over 4 months, I would say book a call and we will find a different method, because depending on their age, it might be time for you to try something new with them. Sample schedules, again, these are sample schedules. None of this is a rule. This is just something for you guys to use as a guide. And for 4 to 6 months, for a child eating every 3 hours, I always have an 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. type of schedule, and I have an 8 a.m. for this one. You just want to wake and feed them, and they are on about 3 naps at that age, and so you really want to make sure that you wake, you feed them, excuse me, you have naps around 9:30. You always want to feed after they have woken up, especially if it's been a really good nap, because we want to make sure that they're getting those calories so that they are not needing them at night. And then we have their last nap ending around 5 o'clock to really get them into a decent bedtime, to start getting their circadian rhythms working, and everybody in the house is a little bit happier. And then for a 4 to 6 month old eating every 4 hours, it looks a little bit different, but you can really do what works for your family. But they're still on a 3 nap schedule at that time. And so you wake them up at the same time every day. This is kind of hard for some parents because they want to sleep in. But if your child is waking up at different times of the day for the morning and having a different bedtime every night, their schedule is never really going to align, because their body, their internal clock isn't aligned. So it just kind of throws things a little bit off and makes it a little wonky. 5 to 6 months, excuse me, we have a 6:30 wake up, again, usually around 7 o'clock, but some babies are early risers, and so we still have our 3 nap schedule, and we have a bedtime of 6:30. And let me tell you, I've done bedtime at 6:30 and it is wonderful. 6 to 8 months old, we have them waking up. They're already now on a 2 nap schedule usually. Sometimes the first nap is an hour and the parents will cap it. Sometimes it's the afternoon nap that the parent will cap, and it's completely up to you and whatever you want to do. And sometimes during this transition, you're still going to need a cat nap. So I always suggest 20 to 30 minutes just to get them to their bedtime so that you don't have to put them down around, 6 o'clock, 6:30 if that doesn't work for you. 8 to 10 months, usually by 10 months, you're officially on a 2 nap schedule. And again, the morning nap is sometimes the longest, sometimes it's the shortest. Baby will lead this, and you want to follow them. The only thing I suggest in intervening is if they're sleeping too long, you want to cap it, because if you give them too much daytime sleep, obviously sometimes, well, for the most part, it will take away from their nighttime sleep, and nobody wants that. And then I have a 10 to 16 month old because it still pertains to 12-month olds. We're still doing a 2 nap schedule. It's just sometimes because of their wake windows, the naps are now happening a little bit later in the day or a little bit earlier because some are already on 1 nap at that moment. It just depends on your child. And if anybody's needing help, again, you guys, please schedule a call. I'm always available in the mornings, specifically between 10 and noon Eastern time. I love speaking with moms and getting to know what's going on with them and getting them some tips for them to try right away and building from there. Bedtime routine tips. You want to keep your bedtime routine short, especially because if you guys have a date night or you have family over, you want anybody to be able to come in, step in for you, and take the bedtime routine over. And as they get older, they start to memorize the routine themselves, and it's really cute when you see them kind of pretend, like think that they know how to turn the knob for the sound machine or the light switch, and it's really fun. So you want to keep it simple. You want to make sure they're awake during their routine, during their feeding. That way you don't do a feed to sleep association. Blackout curtains. If you can see your hand in front of your face, it is not dark enough. And my kids both have blackout shades and curtains, and it is dark. Consider a sleep sack or the swaddle if they like to be swaddled and they're not rolling over. I love a sleep sack. I tell all my moms about sleep sacks. If your child is around 8 months old and still having sleep issues, you can definitely try to put them in a sleep sack, but if they're not used to it, it might take them a while to kind of get the feel for one. So it's really up to you at that point. And then just a simple bedtime routine that I have here is, obviously you want, bath to just kind of set the tone, a book, a prayer, a dance, child-led play, and then I wrote, let them do the lights out as they get older. And really, a routine in our house lasts like 5 minutes, and then that's it. So it's really about sticking to what the steps are, being consistent, and whoever's going to step in and help you, they have to follow the same consistency. Babies love consistency, and that's how they learn. These are some of my favorite products. Like I said, I love a sleep sack. The Zippity Zip is my favorite. And then this is the Homedic sound machine that I actually use. For toddlers, the Hatch is great, but I still use this one for my son because it takes batteries, but it also connects to the walls. So even if the power goes out, if there's batteries in it, it's going to continue on. And then you can also travel with it, which is what we do all the time. Sleep Out blackout curtains. This is the actual brand. They're really great. It's easy to install. They block out every inch of light that you can think of. So they're really great. Again, they are Sleep Out. And then the Juvie Room Squared Play Yard. I'm obsessed with this. This one is perfectly squared. So it's not like a regular pack and play where it's more rectangular. This one's a square. My son is pretty tall and he was obsessed with it when I brought it out. He didn't want to sleep in his own bed. He wanted to use this one. And the padding is really comfortable as well. So the QR code is here so that you guys can take a picture of it. It will take you directly to my iHelpMoms profile where you can message me or send a or schedule to book a call, you guys. And just as a thank you for tuning in and spending some time with me, I have the free travel guide that I want to send to you guys. So if you can, just email me at bettersleepahead@gmail.com. Again, it's bettersleepahead ihelpmoms@gmail.com and let me know that you were in the webinar, and I will get that travel guide out to you because summer is coming and we like to go and do things. And so if I can make it a little bit easier for you guys, I want to be able to offer that to you guys. And if you guys have any questions, I would love to answer some of them if there's any questions. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. I don't want to miss anybody, so let me just give a little bit more, a few more seconds. All right, well, if I did miss anybody, please comment on the video once it's posted and let me know your question, and I will be sure to answer you. Or you can email me at bettersleepahead.com and I can get those answered for you. And don't forget to also email to get your travel guide. So I thank you guys so much for taking the time out. I hope that you guys learned something new, something that you guys can put into practice to see how your child does. And if you guys need anything, I'm here. Look forward to speaking and meeting with you guys face to face through iHelpMoms. And I hope you guys have a great night.